Let's move to the next presentation by Nacho Romero on RINEX working group. Please, Nacho.
Hello, Felix. Can you see my screen okay?
Perfectly.
I hope so, yeah. So welcome, everybody. We'll try to make data format a little bit exciting, but that's not a promise. So RINEX has been a resounding IGS data format success. I really have to say that thanks to obviously a myriad of people, but in particular Dr. Gertner, Dr. Mader, Dr. Este, and Ken McLeod, our last RINEX working group chair, we've managed to keep this essential format to exchange GNSS data since 1990. It has gone through several different evolutions. It's adopted and accepted by receivers and by all kinds of commercial and scientific software, processing software. And so it's become an international standard maintained by the IGS. And the RINEX format now is maintained together with the RTCM. The IGS approached the RTCM, the Radio Marine Commission for Telecommunications, so that we could engage industry in a even playing field rather than going to them after we had set some changes and then them having to adapt to us, which was becoming difficult at times. And so now they participate in all our discussions with the scientists in the RINEX working group, and it's working really well. We aim to maintain the accuracy and precision in the GNSS observations as signals evolve, because as you have seen over time, multi-GNSS has meant there's a myriad of signals from all the different systems, and this means that you need to assign new codes and make sure that everything's covered. And within the forum, we have created a really good working relationship with both the system providers and the vendors, so the receiver and antenna manufacturers. GNSS stores, of course, all the measurements, the basic ones, which are code, phase, signal to noise ratio, and Doppler. We use them for all kinds of things in the IGS. You can read there the 3 different RINEX file types within the same data format. Observation, navigation, and meteorological, or meteo files, as we call them. We had 1990, we had this RINEX 2. There was a slightly earlier version of which lasted for a very short time. And in 2007, we introduced RINEX 3 to be able to accommodate the tracking mode, not just the frequency and the observation type, but also the tracking mode for the signal. And now we are we have been with the need for the last about probably 6 or 7 years that the navigation data or the navigation messages that we have been carrying along since RINEX 2 are missing information that the satellites are actually broadcasting. And so we needed an evolution. This has meant evolution of, in particular, the navigation file, but it affects all the naming of all the different RINEX files. So this year we introduced RINEX 4. RINEX 4, for the observation files, there isn't much new, but there are some new QZSS observations added. There's also support for the new FAIR data standard, so to support that the data is found, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, so that you can indicate at the header, in the header, the license type, etc. The document is hopefully simplified and clarified, and with better links between sections, so you can find the information. And some header lines that used to be compulsory are now optional. The navigation message task force has extended the navigation messages themselves, the file. There are old and new navigation messages now within the same format. The old messages keep the same matrix structure, but now there's a navigation data record concept, which precede every block of navigation data. So there are the EPH blocks, which is for every satellite, the traditional orbital parameters and clock offsets and other quality parameters. There are ionospheric blocks so that we can, during the same file, have different iono values for the same constellations or for different constellations. There are time system offsets, and there are the EOP parameters, which are transmitted in the navigation data from some of the constellations, not all. So in summary, RINEX 4 to be introduced after the governing board meeting tomorrow. The observation files are backwards compatible to the RINEX 305 or 304 or 302, so it's exactly the same format. It's extended a little bit on some new header lines, but nothing major. It's like a relatively small revision. The navigation files are not backwards compatible, but the legacy navigation message blocks, so these matrix blocks we're all used to, remain as in the previous RINEX. They just have an extra line at the top. So it's very easy to continue reading these blocks with some small adjustments, because as soon as you identify a legacy navigation message, the block remains the same. But there are also other caveats that I can say about this major change to make the transition easier. And that is that the navigation messages from any station are not unique, of course, because the station is recording all the navigation messages of the satellites in view. So many other stations nearby or even far away are recording the same navigation messages. So there's no loss of data. If you open a navigation file that's in version 4, and you really can't read it, there are many stations nearby or in the network that will not transition at the same time. So we don't expect this to be a major issue. There are also IGS merged navigation files, which I believe is what most users actually use, which have all the navigation messages for a specific day. We continue to maintain the IGS level, these BRDC YYN files in RINEX 2.11, and also the BRDC00 IGS in RINEX 3. And then there will be a RINEX 4 file soon coming. So those files will remain in those formats. So the fact that some stations may move to RINEX 4 sooner than others will not affect this. There will be enough navigation messages to capture them all and present them in the different formats. The Meteo files are completely backwards compatible to RINEX 3. There's a few lines in the header, but nothing major. They have remained essentially the same since RINEX 2. So anyway, so this supports basically our multi-GNSS, because we needed this for all the different constellations and all the different navigation messages. So that's part of the strategic plan of the IGS to support multi-GNSS as soon as possible. In terms of participation and feedback, so to open the RINEX feedback, we have engaged the RTCM members that have been very willing to help. This means representatives from Septentrio, from Trimble, from Javad. They're all on board to support RINEX 4 as soon as possible, but also representatives from GFSET for GFSET RINEX, this tool that we'll use to merge files, to split files. Also, Dr. Hatanaka has agreed to, of course, immediately issue a new Hatanaka that can support RINEX 4 compression, as well as Jan Doza with Nubis quality control. So we are in good way so that we can have some early RINEX format adoption by the stations that feel that they're ready and that their manufacturers produce converters that can make RINEX 4 from source, which would be the preferred kind of RINEX 4 files. In any case, we also open, to help engage with the community, a new feedback form, which is here. You can find it in our webpage, and you can send the working group, and we'll consider it. Any comment here, constructive or not, we may have missed stuff. We need to make sure that the format continues to be fit for purpose. So please use this form in the IGS website to ensure that your voice is heard. You can, of course, also email me, and that's me from Isa Esok, and I'm happy to take your questions if there are any, and if not, I welcome your comments at any time. Thank you very much. Thanks, Felix.
Thanks to you, Nacho. Well, we have some kind comments recording. Well, first, that RINEX is indeed an IGS success story, which is true, of course. And Mara recalls that we are in a bad situation, and you accepted to jump into the job and take the lead of that working group that was really needed, and the working group is now in a great position. So thanks a lot for that. We also have a comment from Gurong Hu saying that RINEX format changing will keep GNSS software developers busy. Yeah,
busy. Yes, this is absolutely true, and we have agreed within the RINEX working group that we will not make any changes. We've already even included a future signal from the QZSS satellites, which is called L1CB, which will not be transmitted probably until 2023. So we have tried to future-proof this version as much as possible so that it remains stable, and we will not have 401 until a few years down the road, because we know perfectly well how cumbersome it is every time you get this change. But I like I said, the observations can be read with the same reader. You just need to adapt the number so it accepts 4, and that's it. For navigation, you need a little bit more work, but if you're used to reading the merged navigation files, those will remain in RINEX 3 and RINEX 2 as you have known them for years, and so hopefully those will be okay. And we welcome comments about those files as well, because we know sometimes the merging process doesn't work perfect, but it is our commitment of the IGS not to disenfranchise anybody. So we continue to maintain stations in RINEX 2. We will never kick them out, as expressed by David and Marcus Brodke. I mean, we encourage receivers and station operators to move to RINEX 3 if the receiver's multi-GNSS, but we fully understand that there's legacy equipment there that will run for years or decades. And the formats, no RINEX formats, all can be supported in parallel as well. Most software can read 2 and 3 with no problem. And anyway, that's it. Thanks, Felix. Bye.
Thanks to you.